The night before the Great Assembly, Tay could not sleep. He stood on his balcony and watched the 3 moons move slowly across the purple sky. Tomorrow would decide everything. Tomorrow, he would face the entire Valoran Empire and learn if he would live or die. Yuna came to him as she always did, climbing up the hidden path to his room. She stood beside him and took his hand without speaking. They had learned to find comfort in silence. Words were not always needed between 2 people who truly loved each other. "Are you afraid?" she finally asked. "Yes," Tay admitted. "But I am more afraid of losing you than I am of dying." Yuna leaned her head against his shoulder. "My mother has been meeting with Elder Wu all day. He is the oldest advisor in the palace. He knows things that others have forgotten. Ancient laws and traditions that go back to the beginning of our empire. Is that good or bad for us?" Tay asked. "I do not know," Yuna said honestly. "Elder Wu is fair. He follows the law above all else. If the law says you must die, he will support your death. But if the law protects you, he will fight for you even against the entire court." They stayed together until dawn painted the sky in shades of gold and pink. Then, Yuna slipped away to prepare for the assembly, and Tay dressed himself in the finest clothes he had. They were simple compared to Valoran fashion, but they were the best Earth had to offer. The throne room was even more crowded than before. Every noble in the empire had come. Lords and ladies from distant planets filled the galleries. Ambassadors from other species stood in the back, watching with curious eyes. Word had spread across the galaxy that something important was happening in the Valoran Empire. Tay walked down the center aisle with his head held high. There were no chains this time, but he could feel the hatred from all sides. The nobles looked at him like he was a disease that needed to be cut out before it spread. Princess Yuna stood near the throne, dressed in white with silver threads woven through her hair. Her belly was beginning to show now, a small curve beneath her flowing dress. She smiled at Tay as he walked past, and that smile gave him the strength to keep moving. Queen Bora sat on her throne in full royal dress. Her crown sparkled with gems from 100 worlds. Her face was calm and unreadable. Whatever she had decided, she was not giving any hints. Beside the throne stood an old man Tay had never seen before. He was bent with age, his skin wrinkled like old paper. His eyes were cloudy, but they still burned with sharp intelligence. This had to be Elder Wu, the keeper of ancient laws. "Lords and ladies of the Valoran Empire," the queen announced. "We are gathered here to decide the fate of the human called Tay. He has formed a bond with my daughter, the Princess Yuna. She now carries his child. This is unprecedented in our history. There is no easy answer." Lord Kang stepped forward. "Your Majesty, the answer is simple. The human must die. His child must not be born. The bloodline must remain pure." Many nobles shouted their agreement. The sound was like a wave crashing against rocks. Tay felt fear rising in his chest, but he pushed it down. He would not show weakness. "The Lord speaks from tradition," the queen said. "But tradition alone cannot guide us. We must also look to law." She turned to Elder Wu. The old man stepped forward slowly, leaning on a staff made of ancient wood. When he spoke, his voice was thin but clear. "I have spent 3 days in the archive of laws," Elder Wu said. "I have read scrolls that have not been opened in 5,000 years. And I have found something that changes everything." The crowd went silent. Even Lord Kang closed his mouth. Elder Wu was the highest authority on law in the entire empire. His word was almost as powerful as the queen's own. "In the earliest days of our empire," Elder Wu continued, "our ancestors wrote a law about the succession of the throne. It is called the Law of Hearts. Most have forgotten it because it has never been needed, but it still stands as valid as the day it was written." He unrolled an ancient scroll and held it up for all to see. The writing was in old Valorn script that few could read anymore. The Law of Hearts says this: if the heir to the throne gives their heart to another, and that other person receives it honestly and returns it in full, then that person shall be considered worthy of standing beside the throne. No matter their blood, no matter their origin, the bond of true hearts overrules the bond of bloodlines. Murmurs spread through the crowd. Some nobles shook their heads in disbelief. Others looked angry that such a law existed. There's more, Elder Wu said. The law also states that if the heir bears a child with this person, then the person is no longer an outsider. They become family. They become royal. Lord Kang stepped forward again. His face was red with anger. This is ridiculous. A law written 10,000 years ago cannot apply to a human. Our ancestors never imagined that an alien would try to claim our throne. The law does not say Valoran, Elder Wu replied calmly. It says other person. It does not limit based on species or planet of origin. The law is clear. But the child, another noble shouted, it will be half human. How can a hybrid sit on the throne? Elder Wu turned to face the crowd. Despite his age, there was power in his stance. The law does not care about percentages of blood. It cares about truth. It cares about love. It asks only one question. Is the bond real? He walked slowly toward Tay and stopped in front of him. His cloudy eyes studied the human for a long moment. Human, Elder Wu said. I must ask you some questions. You must answer truthfully. The law will know if you lie. Tay nodded. I will tell the truth. Do you love the Princess Yuna? Yes, with all my heart. Did you pursue her for power or position? No. I did not even know she was a princess when I first spoke with her. She came to me as a lonely person seeking friendship. Love came later. Would you give up everything for her? Your home, your people, your world? Tay paused. This was a hard question. Earth was his home. Humans were his people. Could he truly give them up? I would not give them up forever, he said honestly. But I would put Yuna first. I would live here, among your people, and make this my new home. Earth would always be in my heart, but Yuna would be my future. Elder Wu nodded slowly. One last question. If the princess asked you to leave and never return, would you do it? Tay felt tears rising in his eyes. Yes, he whispered. If she truly wanted me gone, I would go. Her happiness matters more than my own. Elder Wu turned to Princess Yuna. Princess, I must ask you the same questions. Do you love this human? Yuna's voice rang out clear and strong. Yes, more than I have ever loved anything. Did you choose him for his power or his connections? Yuna laughed, and the sound was like music in the cold throne room. He is a diplomat from a young species with no power and few connections. I chose him because he listened to me, because he saw me as a person, not as a princess. Would you give up your throne for him? In a heartbeat, Yuna said without hesitation. I never wanted the throne anyway. I only wanted to be happy. Elder Wu smiled. It was a small ancient smile that held centuries of wisdom. He turned back to the queen and bowed his head. Your Majesty, I have tested them. The bond is true. The law of hearts applies. Queen Bora stood up from her throne. The entire room held its breath. This was the moment. Everything that came before had led to this. The law has spoken, the queen said. But laws are only words on paper. They mean nothing if the people do not accept them. She looked out at her nobles, at the thousands of faces staring back at her. Some were angry. Some were confused. Some looked almost hopeful. I have ruled this empire for 40 years, she continued. I have made hard decisions. I have sent soldiers to war. I have signed treaties that saved millions of lives. And I have learned one thing above all else. An empire is not made of bloodlines or traditions. It is made of people. People who love and hope and dream. She walked down the steps from her throne and stood before Tay. He forced himself to stand tall as she approached. "My daughter loves you," she said. "I have tested that love. I have tried to break it. But it has held strong. And the law says that love is enough." She reached up and removed one of the gems from her crown. It was a deep blue stone that pulsed with inner light. She pressed it into Tay's hand. "This stone belonged to my husband," she said. "I placed it in my crown when he died, so he would always be close to me. Now I give it to you. It is a symbol that you are part of this family." Tay looked at the stone in his palm. It was warm against his skin, like it held a tiny piece of fire inside. He could not find words to speak. "There is still much to decide," the queen continued. "The nobles must be convinced. The people must be prepared. But from this moment forward, you are no longer a stranger in this palace. You are my daughter's chosen. And soon, you will be the father of my grandchild." She raised her voice so all could hear. "Does anyone challenge the law of hearts?" The throne room was silent. Lord Kang looked like he wanted to speak, but he kept his mouth shut. Elder Wu's word was final in matters of law. To challenge him would be to challenge the foundation of their entire legal system. "Then it is decided," the queen said. "The human stays. The child will be born. And a new chapter in our history begins today." Yuna ran to Tay and threw her arms around him. He held her close, feeling her heart beating against his chest. They had survived. Against all odds, they had survived. But even as he held her, Tay knew this was not the end. The silence in the throne room was so deep that Tay could hear his own heartbeat. Princess Yuna stood beside him, her hand wrapped around his chained fingers. He could feel her trembling, but her face was brave. She had just told the entire empire that she chose a human over her own people. There was no going back now. Queen Bora looked at her daughter for a long time. Her face was impossible to read. She was a ruler who had learned to hide her feelings behind a mask of stone. But Tay could see something moving behind her eyes, something struggling to break free. "You choose him," the queen repeated slowly. "You stand before your people, your empire, your mother, and you say you choose this human." "Yes, mother," Yuna said. Her voice was steady now. "I love him. I have never loved anyone the way I love him. And I am carrying his child. Our child. Your grandchild." A wave of gasps swept through the crowd. The word grandchild hung in the air like smoke from a fire. Many nobles had suspected the pregnancy, but hearing it confirmed was different. It made everything real. Lord Kang stepped forward. He was the oldest and most respected noble in the court. His voice carried weight that few others could match. "Your Majesty," he said, bowing, "this is a grave matter. The royal bloodline has been kept pure for 10,000 years. If this child is born, it will be the first hybrid in our history. Many will say it is an abomination. Many will refuse to accept it as heir to the throne." Other nobles shouted their agreement. Some called for Yuna to give up the baby. Others demanded that Tay be executed immediately. The throne room became a storm of angry voices, each one trying to be louder than the last. Through it all, Tay stood silent. He knew that speaking now would only make things worse. This was Yuna's fight. This was her world. All he could do was stand beside her and trust that love would find a way. Queen Bora raised her hand. The room fell silent instantly. Even in chaos, her power was absolute. "Leave us," she commanded. "All of you. I will speak with my daughter and this human alone." The nobles hesitated. They did not want to miss what happened next. But none dared to disobey the queen. Slowly, they filed out of the throne room. Guards followed them. Servants disappeared through side doors. Within minutes, only 3 people remained: the queen, the princess, and the human in chains. Queen Bora walked down the steps from her throne. Her footsteps echoed in the empty hall. She stopped in front of Tay and studied his face like she was reading a book. "You are either very brave or very foolish," she said quietly. "Most men would be begging for mercy by now." "I have nothing to beg for, Your Majesty," Tay replied. "I have done nothing wrong. Loving someone is not a crime." "In my empire, it can be," the queen said. "Especially when that someone is the heir to the throne." "Mother," Yuna interrupted. "Please, listen to me. I know you are angry. I know I have disappointed you. But Tay is a good man. He's kind and honest and brave. He makes me happy in a way I've never been happy before." The queen turned to her daughter. For a moment, the mask slipped. Tay saw pain in her eyes. Real, deep pain that came from a mother watching her child make a choice she could not understand. "Do you know what you are asking me to do?" the queen said. "If I accept this human, I will lose the respect of half my nobles. They will say I am weak. They will start plotting against me. The empire will tear itself apart." "Then let it tear," Yuna said fiercely. "If the empire can only survive by keeping us apart, then maybe it does not deserve to survive." The queen's eyes widened. She had never heard her daughter speak like this. Yuna had always been gentle, quiet, obedient. This was a different woman standing before her. This was a woman who had found something worth fighting for. "You would destroy everything we have built?" the queen asked. 10,000 years of history, just for this human? Yuna lifted her chin. "I would burn the galaxy to be with him, Mother. And I think you understand that better than anyone." The words hit the queen like a physical blow. She stepped back, her hand going to her chest. Tay did not understand what was happening, but he could see that something had changed. "What do you mean by that?" the queen whispered. "I know about Father," Yuna said softly. "I know that your parents did not approve of him. I know that you fought your entire family to marry him. I know that you threatened to give up your claim to the throne rather than lose him." The queen's face went pale. She looked older suddenly, like the weight of years had crashed down on her shoulders. "Who told you this?" she demanded. "Old Nurse Hannah," Yuna said. "She was there. She saw everything. She told me the story when I was young, and I never forgot it." Tay watched the 2 women in silence. He was seeing something private, something that went back generations. The queen he had known was cold and hard, but the woman standing before him now was something else. She was a mother who had once been a young girl in love, just like her daughter. The queen walked to a window and looked out at the purple sky. The 3 moons were rising, casting silver light across the palace gardens. She stood there for a long time without speaking. "I loved your father more than life itself," she finally said. Her voice was soft, almost breaking. "When my parents told me I could not marry him, I thought I would die. I screamed and fought and threatened. I told them I would rather be a beggar on the street than live without him." She turned back to face Yuna. There were tears in her eyes now. Real tears that rolled down her cheeks and fell onto the crystal floor. They gave in eventually. They let me marry him. And we had 30 beautiful years together before he died. 30 years of happiness that I would not trade for all the stars in the sky. Yuna stepped forward. "Then you understand, Mother. You know what I am feeling. You know why I cannot let him go." The queen looked at Tay. Her eyes moved over his face, searching for something. He did not know what she was looking for, but he stood straight and met her gaze without fear. "Human," she said, "do you love my daughter?" "With all my heart, Your Majesty," Tay answered. "Would you die for her?" Without hesitation, "Would you live for her?" Would you spend every day of your short human life making her happy? Even when it is hard? Even when you are tired? Even when the whole galaxy is against you? Tay thought about the question carefully. He knew this was not a time for quick answers. This was a time for truth. I cannot promise that every day will be happy, he said slowly. Life is not made of only good moments. There will be hard times and sad times and times when we want to give up. But I can promise that I will never stop trying. I will never stop loving her. I will stand beside her through everything, no matter what comes. The Queen closed her eyes. When she opened them again, something had changed. The anger was still there, but it was fading. In its place was something like acceptance. My nobles will never accept this, she said. They will call me weak. They will say I have betrayed our people. Let them say what they want, Una said. They do not understand love. They only understand power and blood and tradition. But love is stronger than all of those things. The Queen walked to Tay. She reached out and touched his face with her cool fingers. He forced himself not to flinch. You are a strange creature, she murmured. Small and weak and fragile. Your life will be over in a blink of my eye. And yet somehow, you have captured my daughter's heart. I did not try to capture anything, Your Majesty, Tay said. Love is not something you hunt. It is something you find when you stop looking. A small smile crossed the Queen's lips. It was the first smile Tay had ever seen on her face. Wise words from such a young species, she said. She turned to a guard standing by the door. Remove his chains. The guard hurried forward and unlocked the metal bands around Tay's wrists. He rubbed the sore skin where the chains had dug in. Do not mistake this for forgiveness, the Queen warned. I am still furious with both of you. You have made my life much harder than it needs to be. But I will not separate my daughter from the man she loves. I am not that cruel. Una threw herself at her mother and hugged her tight. Thank you, Mother. Thank you. The Queen held her daughter close. Over Una's shoulder, she looked at Tay with serious eyes. But there is still the matter of the nobles, she said. They will demand justice. They will not accept the human standing beside the princess. We must find a way to make this work, or there will be war within our own empire. Tay nodded. He understood that this was only the beginning. The Queen's acceptance was a victory, but the battle was far from over. He would have to prove himself to an entire civilization that saw him as less than nothing. I will do whatever it takes, Your Majesty, he said. The Queen released her daughter and straightened her crown. The mask of the ruler was back in place, but Tay could see the woman underneath now. She was not his enemy. She was a mother trying to protect her child in a world that did not understand. Tomorrow, I will summon the full court again, the Queen said. And I will make a decision that will change our empire forever. Be ready, human. Your real test is about to begin. 3 months had passed since the peace treaty was signed. Tay was supposed to return to Earth after 1 month, but the Queen asked him to stay as a permanent ambassador. She said it was for diplomatic reasons. But everyone in the palace knew the real reason. Princess Una had asked her mother to let him stay. Tay and Una continued their secret meetings. They were more careful now. They met in hidden gardens deep inside the palace where no one ever went. They met in old libraries filled with dusty books that nobody read anymore. They stole moments together whenever they could. Their love grew stronger every day. Tay had never felt this way about anyone. Una was kind and smart and brave. She made him laugh when he was sad. She made him feel like he belonged in this strange world so far from home. But they both knew their love was forbidden. Humans and Valorans had never joined together. The idea was unthinkable to most Valorans. They saw humans as lower beings, not worthy of mixing blood with their ancient race. If the Queen found out, Tay would be sent away forever. Or worse, he might be killed. One night, Yuna did not come to their meeting place. Tay waited for hours in the hidden garden, but she never appeared. He worried all night. He could not sleep. He could not eat the next day. The following night, she came. But something was different. Her face was pale. Her hands were shaking. Tay took her hands in his and held them tight. "What is wrong?" he asked. "Tell me." Yuna looked at him with tears in her eyes. "Tay, I am pregnant." The words hit him like a wave. He stood there, frozen, unable to speak. Pregnant. She was carrying his child. A child that was half human and half forlorn. A child that should not exist according to everyone on this planet. "Are you sure?" he finally asked. Yuna nodded. "The royal physician confirmed it yesterday. She is an old woman who's served my family for generations. She has promised to keep the secret for now, but she cannot hide it forever. Soon, everyone will know." Tay pulled her close and held her. He could feel her heart beating fast against his chest. He was scared. He was more scared than he had ever been in his life. But underneath the fear, there was something else. There was joy. He was going to be a father. "We will figure this out," he said. "Together." "How?" Yuna asked. "My mother will be furious. The nobles will demand your death. They will say you have tainted the royal bloodline. Then we will run," Tay said. "I have a ship. We can go to Earth. You will be safe there. Our child will be safe there." Yuna shook her head. "I cannot run. If I leave, my mother will chase us across the galaxy. She will never stop. And what about my people? I am the only heir. If I leave, the Empire will fall into chaos when my mother dies." They held each other in the darkness of the garden. Neither of them had answers. Neither of them knew what to do. They only knew that they loved each other and that they would face whatever came together. Weeks passed. The old physician kept the secret as long as she could. She gave Yuna special clothes to hide her growing belly. She made excuses when Yuna felt sick in the mornings. But secrets in palaces are like water. They always find a way to leak out. One day, a young servant saw Yuna without her loose robes. The servant told another servant. That servant told a guard. The guard told a noble. And the noble went straight to the queen. Queen Bora sat in her private chambers when the noble came to her. He was an old man named Lord Kang, who had served the royal family for many years. He had always been loyal, but he was also traditional. He believed in keeping the bloodline pure. "Your Majesty," Lord Kang said, bowing low, "I bring news that will disturb you. But you must know the truth." "Speak," the queen said. "Your daughter, the Princess Yuna, is with child." The queen's face went still. She did not move. She did not blink. For a long moment, she said nothing at all. It's a long moment, she said nothing at all. Then she spoke in a voice as cold as winter wind. "Who is the father?" Lord Kang hesitated. "We believe it is the human ambassador, Your Majesty. The one called Tay." The queen stood up slowly. Her hands were shaking, not with fear, but with rage. Her eyes burned with a fire that made Lord Kang step back. "Summon the entire court," she said. "Every noble, every guard, every servant. Everyone must come to the throne room in 1 hour. And bring me the human. Bring him in chains." Lord Kang bowed and hurried away. The queen stood alone in her chambers. She had given everything to her empire. She had sacrificed love, happiness, and peace of mind to be a strong ruler. And now her only daughter had betrayed her with a human. A weak, short-lived human who was barely more than an animal in the eyes of her people. She would have to punish him. She would have to make an example of him. If she showed mercy, the nobles would think she was weak. They would start to question her power. The empire would begin to crumble. But even as she thought these things, a small voice in her heart whispered something else. She remembered being young once. She remembered falling in love with a man her parents did not approve of. That man became her husband, the king, who died 10 years ago. She had fought for that love. She had won. The queen pushed the memory away. This was different. That was a Valoran man. This was a human. It was not the same thing at all. Guards found Tay in his room. They put chains on his wrists and dragged him through the hallways. He did not fight. He knew fighting would only make things worse. He kept his head high and walked with dignity, even as the chains bit into his skin. The throne room was packed with people. Thousands of Valorans stood in rows, watching as Tay was brought before the queen. He could hear them whispering. He could see the hatred in their eyes. To them, he was a criminal who had committed the worst possible crime. Princess Yuna stood to the side of the throne. Her face was wet with tears. She wanted to run to Tay. The guards held her back. All she could do was watch as the man she loved was brought before her mother in chains. Tay stopped at the bottom of the steps that led to the throne. He looked up at the queen. She sat straight and tall, her face like stone. But he could see the anger burning behind her eyes. The queen let the silence grow. She wanted everyone to feel the weight of this moment. She wanted them to understand how serious this was. Then, finally, she spoke. "Human," she said. Her voice echoed through the hall. "Do you know why you stand before me today?" Tay took a deep breath. "I believe I do, Your Majesty." "Then you know what you have done. You have entered my palace as a guest. You have eaten my food and slept under my roof. And in return, you have seduced my daughter. You have put your seed in her belly. You have tried to taint the royal bloodline with your weak human blood." Murmurs spread through the crowd. Some nobles called for Tay's death. Others demanded that he be tortured first. The hatred in the room was thick enough to choke on. But Tay did not look away from the queen. He kept his eyes on hers and spoke clearly. "I have not seduced anyone, Your Majesty. I have loved your daughter honestly and truly, and she has loved me in return. What we did together, as equals." The crowd gasped. No one spoke to the queen this way. No one dared to challenge her words in her own throne room. Queen Bora stood up. Her hands gripped the arms of her throne so tight that her knuckles turned white. She walked slowly down the steps until she stood directly in front of Tay. They were close enough to touch. "You dare speak of love?" she hissed. "You dare stand before me and claim that you love my daughter? You are nothing. You are an insect. Your entire species is barely out of the caves. And you think you are worthy of a princess?" Tay met her gaze without flinching. "Love does not care about species, Your Majesty. It does not care about rank or power or history. It only cares about two hearts finding each other in the darkness." The queen raised her hand to strike him, but she stopped. Something in his eyes made her hesitate. There was no fear there, no desperation, only calm certainty, only truth. She lowered her hand and turned to face the crowd. Her voice rang out across the throne room, loud and clear for all to hear. "This human has committed a crime against our empire. The question now is what we shall do with him." The crowd roared with suggestions. Death, exile, prison. 1,000 punishments were shouted from 1,000 angry voices. But one voice cut through them all. It was Yuna, pushing past the guards, running to stand beside Tay. "Mother, wait," she cried. "There is something you must know. Something everyone must know." The queen looked at her daughter with cold eyes. "What more is there to say? Yuna took Tay's chained hand in hers. She looked out at the crowd, then back at her mother. "I love him," she said, "and I choose him. Whatever punishment you give him, you must give me too." The throne room fell silent. Not a single voice spoke. Not a single person moved. The queen stared at her daughter. For the first time, there was something other than anger in her eyes. There was pain. There was confusion. And deep down, buried under years of being a ruler, there was understanding. The ship landed on the planet Velora with a sound like thunder. Tay stepped out and looked at the sky. It was purple, with 3 small moons hanging above the mountains. He had never seen anything like it. He was a simple man from Earth, a diplomat sent to make peace with the Veloran Empire. He did not ask for this job. The government chose him because he was calm and good with words. The Veloran people were tall. Their skin was pale blue, and their eyes glowed like silver coins. They had ruled this part of the galaxy for 10,000 years. Humans were new to space travel. They had only discovered faster-than-light engines 50 years ago. To the Velorans, humans were like children playing in a world of giants. 2 guards came to meet Tay. They wore armor made of white metal and carried long spears that hummed with energy. They looked at him like he was an insect. "Human," one guard said. "Follow us." "The queen waits." Tay nodded and walked behind them. He kept his back straight and his face calm. He knew they wanted him to feel small. He would not give them that pleasure. The palace was bigger than any building on Earth. The walls were made of crystal that shined with inner light. Strange flowers grew in pots along the hallways. They had no smell, but they moved slowly like they were breathing. Tay kept his eyes forward and counted his steps to stay focused. They entered the throne room. It was a massive hall with a ceiling so high that clouds floated inside it. Thousands of Veloran nobles stood on both sides watching. At the far end sat Queen Bora on a throne made of black stone. She was beautiful in a cold way, like a statue carved from ice. Her crown had 7 points, each one holding a different colored gem. Next to the queen stood a younger woman. She was also beautiful, but her beauty was different. It was warm and soft. Her hair was long and dark purple, and her eyes were kind. Tay felt something strange in his chest when he looked at her. He quickly looked away. "Human," the queen said. Her voice filled the entire hall without shouting. "You come to speak of peace. Why should I listen? Your kind is weak. You have nothing to offer us." Tay bowed his head respectfully. "Your Majesty, it is true that humans are young in this galaxy. We do not have your technology or your history, but we have something else. We have the will to grow. We have the desire to learn. And we have the honesty to admit what we do not know." The nobles laughed. They thought he was making a joke. But the queen did not laugh. She looked at him with curious eyes. "Interesting," she said. "Most species come here and pretend to be stronger than they are. You admit your weakness. That is either very stupid or very wise." "I hope it is wise, Your Majesty," Tay said. The queen smiled, but it was not a warm smile. "We shall see. You will stay in the palace for 1 month. We will discuss the terms of peace. If I am satisfied, there will be a treaty. If not, your ship will take you home and we will never speak again." Tay bowed again. "Thank you, Your Majesty. I will do my best." The queen waved her hand and servants came to take Tay to his room. As he walked away, he looked back one more time. The young woman next to the queen was still watching him. Their eyes met for just a moment. Then she looked away quickly. His room was simple but comfortable. It had a bed, a desk, and a window that looked out at the purple sky. Tay sat on the bed and let out a long breath. The first meeting was over. He had survived. That night, he could not sleep. He walked out to the balcony and looked at the 3 moons. They were so different from Earth's single white moon. Everything here was different. The air smelled like flowers he could not name. The sounds of the night were strange songs from creatures he had never seen. You cannot sleep either? Tay turned quickly. The young woman from the throne room stood at the edge of his balcony. She had climbed up from below. Her feet were bare, and her dress was simple. Princess Tay said, bowing. He had learned her name from the servants. She was Princess Yuna, the only child of Queen Bora. Please do not bow, she said. I came here to talk, not to be worshipped. Tay straightened up. Is it safe for you to be here? If someone sees you, no one will see me, Yuna said. I know every hidden path in this palace. I have been walking them since I was a child. She sat on the edge of the balcony and looked at the moons. Tell me about Earth. What is it like? Tay sat down next to her, keeping a respectful distance. It is smaller than Valora. We have only one moon. Our sky is blue during the day and black at night. We have oceans that cover most of our world. Oceans, Yuna repeated. We have oceans here too, but they are purple, like our sky. Is it true that Earth's water is clear? Yes, Tay said. Clear and blue in most places. That sounds beautiful, Yuna said softly. They talked for hours. Tay told her about mountains and forests and cities made of glass and steel. Yuna told him about Valora's floating islands and crystal caves and the festivals where people danced under all 3 moons at once. They laughed at each other's stories. They asked endless questions. When the first light of dawn touched the sky, Yuna stood up. I must go. My mother will send servants to wake me soon. Will you come back? Tay asked. He surprised himself by asking. He should not want the princess to visit him. It was dangerous for both of them. Yuna smiled. It was the warmest smile he had seen on this cold planet. Yes, she said. Tomorrow night. Same time. She climbed down and disappeared into the shadows. Tay watched her go. His heart was beating fast. He told himself it was just because of the surprise visit. But deep down, he knew it was something more. The month of negotiations began. During the day, Tay met with the queen and her advisors. They argued about trade routes and borders and military agreements. It was hard work. The Valorans did not trust humans, and they made sure Tay knew it. But at night, everything changed. Every night, Yuna came to his balcony. They would talk until dawn, learning about each other's worlds and each other's hearts. Tay learned that Yuna was lonely. She had everything a princess could want, but she had no friends. Everyone around her wanted something from her. Everyone except Tay did, and Tay learned something else too. He was falling in love with her. It was impossible. It was dangerous. It was the most wonderful thing he had ever felt. On the 15th night, as they sat together watching the moons, Yuna reached out and took his hand. Her skin was cool against his warmth. She looked into his eyes. Tay, she whispered, I think I love you. He knew he should let go. He knew he should tell her this could never work. But instead, he held her hand tighter. I love you too, he said. Under the 3 moons of Valora, a human and a princess sealed a love that would shake the empire to its core. The nobles had been forced to accept him by law. The law could not change. 6 months had passed since the Great Assembly. Tay had spent every day trying to prove himself worthy of the Valoran people. He studied their language until he could speak it without an accent. He learned their history until he knew it better than most nobles. He trained with their warriors until his body ached and his hands bled. Some Valorans began to respect him. They saw how hard he worked. They saw how much he loved the princess. But many still hated him. They whispered behind his back and plotted in the shadows. Lord Kang had gathered a group of nobles who refused to accept the human in their royal family. Yuna's belly had grown large now. The baby would come any day. The royal physicians said everything was healthy. The child was strong, stronger than any Valoran baby they had seen before. Perhaps there was something special about mixing human blood with Valoran blood after all. One night, Tay sat beside Yuna in their chambers. She was resting on soft cushions, her hand on her belly. He watched her with eyes full of love and worry. "You should sleep," she said gently. "You have been awake for 2 days." "I cannot sleep," Tay replied. "I keep thinking about the baby, about the future, about everything that could go wrong." Yuna reached out and took his hand. "Nothing will go wrong. We have each other. We have my mother's protection. We have the law on our side." "The law does not stop assassins," Tay said quietly. "I have heard the rumors. Lord Kang and his followers are planning something. They will not let our child sit on the throne without a fight." Yuna's face grew serious. "My mother has spies watching them. If they move against us, she will know. And if she does not know in time?" They looked at each other in silence. The fear was there between them, unspoken but real. They had come so far, but danger still surrounded them on all sides. The next morning, Yuna went into labor. Physicians rushed to her side. Servants ran through the halls carrying hot water and clean cloths. Tay paced outside the door, unable to sit still. Every scream from inside made his heart stop. Every moment of silence was even worse. Hours passed. The 3 moons rose and set. A new day began, and still the labor continued. Tay was exhausted, but he refused to leave his post outside the door. Finally, just as the sun reached its highest point, he heard a new sound. It was not Yuna's scream. It was the cry of a baby. A strong, loud cry that seemed to shake the walls. The door opened. An old physician stepped out with tears in her eyes. "It is a girl," she said. "A healthy, beautiful girl. And the princess as well." Tay pushed past her and ran inside. Yuna lay on the bed, pale and tired but smiling. In her arms was a small bundle wrapped in white cloth. A tiny face peeked out, with eyes that seemed to glow faintly silver. "Come meet your daughter," Yuna whispered. Tay approached slowly, afraid he might somehow hurt the tiny creature in his wife's arms. He looked down at his daughter and felt something break open in his chest. Love poured out of him like water from a broken dam. "She is perfect," he said, his voice cracking. "She has your nose," Yuna said, laughing softly. "And my mother's stubborn chin." They named her Sue, which meant star in the old Valoran language. It was a simple name, but it felt right. She was their little star, born from the union of 2 worlds. Word spread quickly through the empire. The hybrid princess had been born. Some celebrated, others cursed. Lord Kang and his followers saw it as the final insult to their traditions. 3 days after Sue's birth, Lord Kang made his move. He gathered 200 soldiers who were loyal to him and marched on the palace. He claimed he was acting to save the empire from contamination. He called Tay a parasite and demanded that the baby be taken away. But Queen Bora had been watching. Her spies had told her everything. When Lord Kang arrived at the palace gates, he found the royal guard waiting for him. 5,000 soldiers stood in perfect formation, their weapons ready. The queen herself stepped forward to meet the rebels. Her face was cold with fury. "Lord Kang," she said, "you have served my family for many years. But your service ends today. You have committed treason. You have raised arms against your queen. The penalty is death." Lord Kang fell to his knees. All his courage disappeared when he saw the army against him. His 200 soldiers threw down their weapons and surrendered. "Please, your majesty," Lord Kang begged. "I was only trying to protect our traditions, our bloodline, everything we have built." "You were trying to kill my grandchild," the queen said. There is no forgiveness for that. She waved her hand, and guards dragged Lord Kang away. His followers were arrested and sent to prison. The rebellion was over before it truly began. That night, the queen visited Yuna and Tae in their chambers. She held baby Sue in her arms and smiled down at the tiny face. It was the warmest smile Tae had ever seen on her. "She has your eyes," the queen said to Yuna, "and your father's spirit. I can feel it in her." "Mother," Yuna said carefully, "what will happen now? Lord Kang is gone, but there are others who think like him. Our daughter will never be safe." The queen nodded slowly. "You are right. There will always be those who cannot accept change. That is why I have made a decision." She handed the baby back to Yuna and stood tall. Even in a simple robe without her crown, she looked every bit the ruler of an empire. "I am old," she said. "I have ruled for 40 years. I have done my duty to our people. It is time for me to rest." Yuna's eyes went wide. "Mother, what are you saying?" "I am saying that the time has come for a new ruler. A new era." She turned to face Tae. "Human, you have proven yourself worthy. You have worked harder than any noble in this palace. You have shown courage, honor, and love. The law of hearts has made you royal. Now I will make you more than that." Tae felt his heart stop. "Your Majesty, I do not understand." "Tomorrow at noon I will hold a coronation," the queen said. "Not for myself, but for you and my daughter. You will become king and queen of the Valoran Empire, and your daughter will be the heir to the throne." Silence filled the room. Tae could not breathe. King. She wanted to make him king, a human from a young species, ruling over an empire that was old when his ancestors were still living in caves. "I cannot accept this," he said. "The people will never follow a human king. They will follow the man who stands beside their beloved princess," the queen replied. "They will follow the father of the heir. They will follow someone who has proven that love is stronger than blood, that courage is more important than tradition." Yuna took Tae's hand. Her eyes were bright with tears of joy. "Say yes," she whispered. "Say yes, and we will build a new future together." Tae looked at his wife. He looked at his daughter sleeping peacefully in her arms. He thought about everything he had been through to reach this moment. The fear, the doubt, the endless struggle to prove himself worthy. "Yes," he said. "I accept." The coronation was held the next day at noon. The throne room was decorated with flowers from 100 worlds. Every noble, every ambassador, every servant gathered to watch history being made. Tae walked down the aisle in robes of deep blue, the color of Earth's oceans. Yuna walked beside him in white and silver. Baby Sue was carried by old Nurse Hana, who had kept so many secrets for so many years. Queen Bora stood at the top of the steps holding 2 crowns. One was silver with blue gems. The other was gold with white diamonds. "People of the Valoran Empire," she announced. "Today we begin a new chapter in our history. Today we prove that our empire is not bound by old fears and ancient hatreds. Today we embrace the future." She placed the silver crown on Yuna's head. "My daughter, you are now queen of the Valoran Empire. Rule with wisdom and love." Then she turned to Tae. She held up the golden crown for all to see. "This crown has not been worn since my husband died. I swore I would never give it to another. But I was wrong to make that promise. My husband would have loved you, human. He would have seen the strength in your heart." She lowered the crown onto Tae's head. It was heavier than he expected, but he stood straight beneath its weight. "I give you your king," the queen said. "Not born of our blood, but chosen by our hearts. Not from our world, but part of our family. The first human to rule in the stars." For a moment, silence filled the throne room. Tae held his breath. This was the test. Would the people accept him? Would they follow a human? Then a voice rose from the crowd. It was a young servant, barely more than a child, who worked in the kitchens. King. The servant shouted. Another voice joined. Then another. Then 100, 1,000, 10,000 voices all rising together until the words shook the very walls of the palace. King. 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 Tay looked out at the sea of faces. Nobles who had hated him were cheering. Soldiers who had guarded him were beating their spears against the ground in celebration. Servants who had whispered about him were crying with joy. He felt Yuna take his hand. He looked at her and saw his whole future in her eyes. Together they would rule this empire. Together they would raise their daughter. Together they would build a bridge between humans and Valorans that would last for generations. We did it, Yuna whispered. No, Tay replied, squeezing her hand. Love did it. We just had the courage to follow it. Below them, the crowd continued to chant. The sound rose up to the crystal ceiling and beyond, spreading out across the planet and into the stars. On Earth, humans would soon learn that one of their own had become a king. On other worlds, aliens woe.